Hello and welcome to this video on how to import iRacing data into AiM Race Studio Analysis software. In the previous video, which I'll link to in the top right hand side of this video, we looked at how to instruct iRacing to be able to log telemetry to be able to give you those data files that you can then analyze for your driving trends and all sorts of other variables that will be available. To be able to get that data file into the Race Studio Analysis software, we're going to use Race Studio 3. So I'm going to load that up here, and in the latest version you're going to notice that up here on the left hand side there are two new features available. The first is AiM Simulator Manager, and we're not going to cover that today, but I'll put a link in the box below for you to be able to get more information, is where you want to be able to use AiM hardware as part of your sim rig. What we're going to look at today is how we get the data files into a format that we can actually read and use in the Race Studio Analysis software. And to do that, we're going to hover over here and look at the imported files. Now right now you'll notice it says there are 59 files available for import. If I click on the settings, this will actually tell AiM and the Race Studio 3 software where to go to be able to find those IBT files or those iRacing files. And so you can see that right now it mimics the location that we set yesterday as we looked at where iRacing is storing that data. So it's documents, iRacing and telemetry. And just to mirror that, you can notice here that if I go to the quick shortcut that I have here, it's documents, iRacing and telemetry. Now before we get into the converting of those files ready for use in the Race Studio Analysis software, I want to be able to talk about the file location itself and all the files that are available. Now if you're anything like me, you've got telemetry set up for many of the sessions that you run, and because iRacing is gathering so many channels, a lot of these files can be quite sizable. If you notice here from this last session that I did yesterday, a 40-minute race at Watkins Glen in a Mercedes is 139 megabytes in size. If you add that up to the 59 files that are in here, that means that the conversion process is going to take an awful long time in terms of being able to churn through all of this data, much of which you don't need. The second thing which is really important to note is that once Race Studio 3 has converted this data so that you can use it in the Race Studio Analysis software, this is where it's always going to look for that particular file. Which means that if you want to be able to clean out this telemetry file, or you want to be able to manage storage, especially if many of these files are so big, you want to make sure that you don't put the session in a place whereby you might find that one day you might clean it out or mistakenly delete it. And so what I've done is I've created a second folder called iRacing AiM Import. And what I'll do is I'll just go into this section here and know whichever session I want to be able to use. I'm going to use this one here, the MX5 at Brands Hatch Indy, and I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to drop it into the AiM import box. Then what I'm going to do is I'm now going to minimize that, and I'm going to go back to iRacing and I'm going to change the location it looks for that. And so now I'm going to specify that I want it to pick that in Documents and iRacing import, which is where I'm holding all of these files. I'm going to select that folder and I'm going to click on OK. Now if I click up here to the left hand side and click on import files, now it's saying there's only 3 files available for import, which is what we want to be able to do. It's much more manageable and we know those files are always going to be there. So I'm going to click on this area here, I'm going to click on this button, and this box is going to open up. What I want to be able to do here is just be able to specify what I want to be able to export the files into. And so the AiM DRK is all the analysis that we need. And then I'm also going to click on Google because I'd like these files potentially to be able to use on Google Earth later on in maybe a different analysis, a different session. All I need to do now is click on Convert, and the system is going to start converting those into the files that we can then use in the AiM Race Studio Analysis software. And so it shouldn't take too long. You notice that it's just churning through those right now. And what's going to do is it's going to put these with all of the parameters of the race, so the car, the track, the driver, all into a scenario which you would ordinarily use if you imported the data either by Wi-Fi in Race Studio 3 or by cable in any of the softwares that you use to download the data from your dash or your AiM Solo. So I'm going to click exit now that's done, and you'll notice that nothing else happens here. But if I then load up the Race Studio Analysis software, you notice that it's actually churning away here. It's actually converting those files into the ones that we typically use. And if you click down now into Test Database, you'll notice that there's new files that have been available. Now, it just imported in the 2 files that I wanted. I wanted 2 here from a test at Watkins Glen. I'm actually going to close those, and I'm just going to leave open the Brands Hatch Indy that has brought that in, and you can see all of the details that I wanted to be able to have. It happens to have listed, it is all of the data that we want to be able to analyze. And now if I be able to then open that, which it is, click on things like Lap Manager, you can see all my laps, you can see the measures graph. Now, interestingly, with the measures graph, it does exactly what may have happened with the dash, which is it may have brought in information such as a short lap. And what generally happens with iRacing is if you escape out of a session, it'll record half a lap, quarter of a lap, and so oftentimes as AiM skews to the fastest lap time on your session, it may find that. So before you go anywhere else, there may be aspects of cleanup, and we'll put a video up later on to be able to show how to manage your data once you've imported it in. But just to reiterate the features that came out of this video. First and foremost, make sure your files are in a location which is manageable. You do not want, and I know this from experience, the Race Studio 3 software trying to convert those 59 files, because that would take an awful long time. The second thing is, because it keeps those files in the same location, you want to be able to specify somewhere where you're not going to delete those files by accident, so you can't analyze those after cleaning out of your telemetry file. So hope you found this video useful, and please place a comment in the box below, and look for more videos on how to be able to manage and work through the iRacing data as we continue this series of looking at iRacing data into the AiM Race Studio Analysis software. Thanks so much for watching, and happy analyzing.